when you extrapolate it out into the world, it actually becomes really powerful. And so I remember this lesson where they were like, okay, so if you stand up in front of the class and you teach long division, right? And then you give the long division test to your students, and only half of them demonstrate that they know how to do long division.
Mm-hmm.
Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it?
Expanding possibilities, the mindset zone.
I'm your host, Anna Melikian, and before we start, please remember to visit mindset.zone. Yes, instead of .com, it's .zone to access all the episodes and other amazing resources, all at mindset.zone. And if you want to get the free chapter of my book, Mindset Zone, please go to mindset.zone/book. Today, our special guest is Lindsay LaShell, and Lindsay is a marketing activist helping purpose-driven organizations do better marketing so that they can create more sustainable organizations and more impactful work. Welcome to the Mindset Zone, Lindsay.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you managed to have time for us and to have this conversation, because we are in this beautiful month of March that here in the United States, and I think it's worldwide, is the B Corp Awareness Month. And I want to speak about that in a moment. But before that, tell us, why did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
It's funny. I call myself a reluctant entrepreneur. I did not want this job. I had actually several opportunities to become an entrepreneur over the early stages of my career, and I kind of dodged all of them. And ultimately what happened was I was working in marketing agencies, and I loved agency work. I loved the challenge of the clients and all of the different, every day is a new day in marketing agency land. And I loved it. But the place I was working was really quite toxic. And I was the breadwinner for my small family of myself and my husband at the time. And so I felt a great deal of pressure to stick with it. And I kept looking for a job and kept looking for other alternatives and couldn't find one. And I finally got to the place where it was self-preservation. It was about emotional well-being. I had to take anti-anxiety meds to get through my workday, and different anti-anxiety prescription to be able to sleep at night. And I got to the end. And so I had one client that I had landed in the first agency I worked at, followed me to the second one. And I went to them and I said, thinking about going out on my own. And he said, I'll be your first client. And so I started my agency with one monthly retainer at $2,500 a month, and a bank loan of about $7,000 that was secured by my car.
Ooh.
That was how I started. We did not have a safety net. We did not have, for better or for worse, I always know that I'm going to land on my feet. And because of that, I'm quite comfortable in financial circumstances that really could reasonably terrify a lot of other adults. So I made it work.
And even like that, there was a push, or they say the circumstances may push you to, okay, I can do
That's
this.
right.
I go by my own self-preservation, taking care of yourself, even with all the risks. The culture was so toxic that the alternative looked much better.
That's right.
Wow.
It was a very tough moment. When I look back on that time in my life, everybody sort of goes through these phases where you're really in survival mode. You're just trying to keep your shit together and get through the day. But you don't always know it when you're in survival mode, because that's one of the protective, right? Your brain sort of protects you from being fully aware of how bad things are. So when I look back on that time now, I'm just so grateful that I still have my friends. I'm so grateful that I was able to build my network and convince people to come work for me and work with me. And, I'm super proud of that little business that I built. And now I'm unemployable. I'm an entrepreneur forever now.
Yeah, now you tasted that lifestyle and you don't want
That's
to go
right.
back. Even like that, you have transformed things because you left the agency, you start your own, you brought people in, and you create your own agency, your own marketing agency. How many employees did you grow to?
So at our very peak was September of 2019, and we had 10 full-time employees, including myself.
Wow. Wow.
I was really, really proud.
And at that time, were you already a B Corp for that agency?
Yep. We had just gotten B Corp status.
Wow. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, and taking in attention that many of the people listening probably are not aware what the B Corp is. So tell us why, as a small business, because 10 people is still a very small business, and the B Corp process is a quite long and comprehensive kind of application to get the certification. Tell us why it was so important for you to become a B Corp, and what is that? What attracted you in the B Corp movement?
Yeah. So I had been hearing rumblings of purpose-driven business ideas. I had been entrepreneur adjacent for a long time. Like I said, I sort of didn't take lots of opportunities to become entrepreneur earlier in my career. So I was familiar with the idea of like a triple bottom line. I was familiar with these sort of, which the triple bottom line business is a people, planet, profit, right? You look at your business for all three of those outputs. So I had sort of been playing with some of those things, and I honestly don't know where the B Corp itself got into my awareness, but when I started to look at it, and I will pat myself on the back a little bit. One thing that I'm quite good at is watching how other people do things and then either taking that on board or refining it for myself. So like an easy example of that is like the agencies I worked at would pitch work, sell work based on hourly estimates, but then they never went back and actually compared the hourly estimates to the work that was done. And I was like, we're missing a huge opportunity here to like price smarter and incentivize our team and all this sort of thing. So then when I became an agency, like that, we did analyze how time was spent before and after the fact, and that helped us do well. So anyway, so it's like a small example. And so I built my business to be an ethical business. It was always really important to me. We need to have diversity in lots of different ways. We need to have it needs to be a great inclusive place to work. We need to, I made a big effort to do those things. So then when I start to look at the B Corp certification, it was just proving that we were who we said we were. We didn't really have to change anything. We didn't have to really learn anything. It was very much like pro forma, because we were intentionally trying to build an ethical business.
You are walking the talk already, was to go over the things to get the certification. And I love that you said that the triple bottom line, the profit, people, and planet, was a little bit, you're already aware of it, because the way that I found the B Corps was, first I found the triple bottom line, that I thought that makes all the sense. We are in a for-profit business. Yes, profits are important. And we have to take attention these other elements, the people that all the stakeholders involved, the planet that we live in is the best that we have. And from that was a natural thing to become, in your case, certified as a B Corp. And in my case, as a micro business, I'm in the process of applying for that. And I love that you start your own company running away from that trying to get a better emotional well-being, trying to get away from the toxic environment that you were there. And you were developed psychological and business-wise enough to create something that was different. Because I know, unfortunately, there are many cases of people that start their own business to run away of a certain toxicity, and then they become, or a boss that made their life a living hell, and they create a business that they are bringing some of the old patterns to their entrepreneur journey too. But you managed to make that cut. What was that in terms of mindset that allow you to make that happen, make it that clear cut and build a company that was much more supportive and inclusive and growing like you did?
I've never thought about it that way. And I think it's really kind of cool. This is one of those things. I've had a really meandering career. The number of industries I have worked in, the number of different, before I landed in marketing agencies, I was all over the map. And part of that included a stint as an elementary school teacher. So I taught 4th and 5th grade in Oakland Unified and in West Contra Costa Unified, which is also in East San Francisco Bay. And the program where I got my teaching credential was an incredibly progressive program. Like genuinely, it wasn't on any of the paperwork. It wasn't on any of the advertising. But once you got into the classroom with these folks, they were very clear. The work they were trying to do was to prepare white teachers to be effective in contexts where they were working with not white students. And it was very, very much about how do you be inclusive in a multilingual setting? How do you be inclusive in a multiracial setting? And that's where I really had to learn a lot about white privilege. That's where I really had to learn a lot about, racial wealth inconsistencies. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. And so that was it. That was where they taught us something in that program. It's very specific about teaching. But when you extrapolate it out into the world, it actually becomes really powerful. And so I remember this lesson where they were like, okay, so if you stand up in front of the class and you teach long division, right? And then you give the long division test to your students, and only half of them demonstrate that they know how to do long division, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? You. They're like, you're the teacher. You didn't teach half the class. It is not on them to adapt to your needs. It is you to adapt to them. And so as a leader, I always brought that to my ideology. And so for me, the clarity of communication, the baseline of respect, and the acknowledgement that leaders are just people. We f stuff up too. And the truth is that if one of my employees does the wrong thing, it's because I didn't give them the right information. And they have to demonstrate over and over again that they had the right information before you know what I mean?
Yes.
To me, it's when you have that mindset, it's a totally different relationship. It's a totally different kind of collaboration. And there's many things that I learned. I used to say jokingly, if I can get 30 10-year-olds to do what I want, then 10 30-year-olds is easy.
Yeah,
right? Getting a handful of millennials to do what you want after getting those same kids, right? A lot of my team were the same age as the students that I taught. And so it's interesting to see, that sort of just generational growth. And I'm not that much older than them, but it's enough that I can sort of see the difference. Yeah. What I learned as a teacher.
I love that, how you extrapolate from your learning as a teacher to you as a leader of your own organization, and the diversity, the inclusion, the clear communication. And how about taking care of the mental well-being? Was also something from education or from your own experience?
Both, I think. Both. I had, at the time that I started my company, I had been seeing the same psychologist for probably 4 or 5 years at that point, and I'm still seeing the same person, and I value that relationship just absolutely. It is invaluable to me. And so I'm just one of those people who thinks that everybody should have a therapist. And I don't even care if your parents loved you, you still need a therapist. So that's part of it. Part of it is actually what they taught us about self-care when I was becoming a teacher, and also about your students, I actually taught in one of maybe the lowest performing elementary school in Oakland Unified. Like, we're talking about a place where we were on lockdown because of not active shooters as we understand them now, but more like gang drive-bys. There were bullet holes in my classroom window that never got fixed. One of my dear friends from college and a colleague at that school wrote a book that I was proud to contribute the title to. It's literally unbelievable what we allow education in this country to be for poor kids and for Black and brown kids. It's shocking to many, sadly. So when you put it like that, like, how's a kid supposed to learn long division when they had to sleep in the bathtub because they were like, it's just a little bit of empathy that teaches you that, like, if you don't feel safe, then you're not at your best, and you certainly don't have the capacity to expand your capabilities.
And just for the record, the name of the book that your colleague wrote, and that is Literally Unbelievable. Is that the name of the book?
That's the name.
Okay, I just want to make sure for the record, because then I would like to put the link in the show notes for it. Wow.
Yep. Tales from an East Oakland classroom.
I love it.
Understanding that circumstance, like getting to that point where I was required to empathize in order to do my job well. I really had to empathize very deeply with people whose experience was incredibly different from my own, right? Whereas the default would have been to like be judgmental about parents that don't show up for parent conferences. Now you get to like really take a different angle on that and look at it from a like, holy, like, look at all these other things they're having to deal with. And so it's funny because it makes you a better leader, because it makes you more connecting to them on a one-to-one level. Like, I believe everybody wants to do a good job. If somebody's not doing a good job, there's a reason they're not. I absolutely believe that everybody behaves with the best intentions until they prove to me otherwise. So as a leader, that part was really important. And it's also really important as a marketer. Like, now my whole practice is based on this like very structured sort of approach to empathizing with your audiences so that you can refine your messaging and narrow down your channel strategy and just get really smart about it. This is a really incredible experience for me.
I love how you use all your previous experience to make a better place to work. And you got a certain degree of success. You managed your agency growing. And then at a certain point, you decide to do another change, to go from agency owner to solopreneurship. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is another mental health story, it turns out. So in that fall, employee number 1 and employee number 2 that had both worked with me for many years. So I have millennials who work for me for like more than 3 years. I'm like going to win a prize someday. Like, I'm very proud of it. And they were amazing. But the truth is that like they had outgrown their positions. The agency wasn't growing as fast as their capabilities, where it was time for them to move on. But as somebody with a very small team who relied very heavily on the institutional knowledge and the skills that they had gained in working with me, it was a little bit of a shock, and so I took my laptop and I ran away to my favorite desert. I ran away to Palm Springs, like, to do some, like, I call it an executive retreat, but it's really like sitting by the pool and meditating and thinking about, like, what do I want? Where am I? Where am I going? What do I want to be? And what I realized is that running an agency was not the job I wanted. The management of the team, as I have described, was actually just too taxing for me emotionally. And I wasn't getting the excitement of the work with the clients that I used to get. Yeah. But also in the number of things we did not know in the fall of 2019, right? But like,
what was coming next?
But but also, like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to go like fire my team and fire my retainer clients. Like, I had a good little business going. So I was like, not going to do that. But having acknowledged that I wanted something else, then the universe provided. So the staff turnover led to client turnover. I made a bad hire. It became this sort of like downward spiral that came to a crash at the bottom when we lost 80% of our monthly recurring revenue from February to April.
Because of the COVID.
And so because of the pandemic. So for me, the pandemic was the last nail in the coffin not the first, of something that I was ready to let go of. And it really, like, it turned out to really, really ease the journey for me in the way everything went down. And so, and I was very, in the end, very grateful. All of my employees, except for the very youngest one, had transitioned themselves out and found other opportunities. And I didn't have to let anyone go except for the newest hire, who was just finished. She graduated in June of 2020. So I spent the summer paying the team on PPP loans, trying to make a go of it, trying to get the thing going. Give me a break. Like, in retrospect, that was so quixotic. Like, in retrospect, it's so charming and like quaint that I would think I could raise like a few $100,000 worth of marketing retainers at that time of the economy, at that time of our culture. But I'm a business owner. I was doing what I was trying, I still got to pay my bills and like doing what I can do. And the conversations I'm having are with purpose-driven entrepreneurs. And they're saying to me, I don't need you guys to do the work, but I do need you to give me a plan. Just give me a plan. Tell me which direction to run, and then I can do it, or I can have my team do it, or whatever. And I was like, that is very interesting, because I at this time had developed a curriculum for like a 1-day, I was calling it a cause marketing boot camp, right? And it was like for one-person marketing teams inside of nonprofits was really the idea. And it was like the strategic framework that I had used with my agency clients. I had developed it in order to basically proactively build consensus between myself, my client, and my team, of like, here's who we're talking to, here's what they care about, we all agree, so that when the client comes to me and says, I want you to do this on Facebook, I can say no, because it doesn't fit into our plan, or yes, that is a good
idea,
good way to implement this, right? So I always had that as the justification for like why we would or wouldn't do anything. One of the things I saw in previous agencies, like, right, one of the things I learned from watching other people mess it up was we would do the things the client told us to do, even though we knew it wasn't going to work. And when that happens, then the client still holds us responsible. No client ever says, well, I'm the one who told you to do that, so that's on me. Like, that's, God bless them, that's not how it works, right? So I came into this with like, I can't afford to be apologizing for their mistakes. Like, that is not a thing I want to do. And I'm nobody's henchwoman. Like, I'm an expert. That's what we're here for. Yeah. So I took the framework, I adapted it into a consulting model. I called 5 prospects, pitched them all, 3 of them closed. And that's the rest is history. That's why I was like, this is my job now. Love it. I love it.
So now you are a solopreneur, you still have contractors, people, virtual assistants, but you are in essence a one-person business.
Yeah, I'm very much, I have an EA. She's like part-time dedicated, but I don't even work with any subs right now. Like when my clients ask me for a referral, I am thrilled to introduce them to a woman of color who has the skills that they need. And that's how I support my clients. Like, help them get on board with what needs to be done, and then fill out their team or train up their team, whatever it is. Yeah.
And at this moment, you find that the format that you are doing now is the best for you at this moment of your life?
I'm actually like a little bit transitioning. So there's two things that I am trying to accomplish here, right? The first is like, the reason why I call myself a marketing activist is because lots of good businesses can fail with bad marketing.
Yes.
And my belief is that when women, queer, people of color, entrepreneurs do well, the whole world is a better place because of the justice, because of the power, because of it, right? There's all kinds of reasons why that's true. So part of what I am looking to do with the Open Lines framework is make it more accessible. Just make it cheaper so that there are more entrepreneurs, there are more accelerators, I want everybody to do it.
Love it.
So I'm adopting. So I love working one-on-one with clients, right? That's like imagine a marketing retreat, right? Put all the stakeholders in a room and we're going to like hash it out and dig in hard and look at your audiences and look at your competitors and like re-examine your messages and write some copy and plan your social media strategy. Like, we do all this stuff and it feels so good to do it together and do it quickly because it builds momentum and it builds consensus and you just go. I love that, and I never want to stop doing that, but that does not scale. It absolutely doesn't scale. And so the thing that I'm looking at now is how I can build the curriculum in a self-service kind of way in order to maybe be able to sell licenses, be able to sell, like, obviously, like, you know, one-off entrepreneurs can take care of it, do their own thing, but I really want to look more at entrepreneurs supporting organizations, accelerators, incubators, even foundations, right? And that's work that I've done before, where a foundation will hire me to work with a bunch of their projects, and that's thrilling to me.
So I love how you keep evolving and learning from previous experience. Love it. Where can people learn more about what you are doing now and how they can tap into your expertise? Tell us where people can go.
Yeah, so always find me on LinkedIn. I don't think there's like a very Googleable. I've been working on the internet for a very long time. So LinkedIn is a really good place. I am really launching a lot right now. I'm like working really hard to draw a lot of attention to my social media solution, which is like a $10 Kajabi course on how you can quit social media, especially channels that you don't like, without sacrificing business opportunity. So I have there's a lot of good reasons to not do it. And a lot of people just don't want to for many reasons. And I support all of them. And I sort of get to debunk this idea that it's a thing that you have to do, because I have suggestions for how you can make up for it.
Make your life easy. I love that. I love your philosophy about that. And you're also writing a book at the moment, correct?
I am. Yeah, this is the first year that I have said I intend to finish the book this year.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the world needs that book. So put it out there. So thank you. I will make sure that I put all the links below in the show notes. But thank you for sharing your story and your journey. It's like with the ups and downs, the bumps in the road, and the continuous learning. I love that on you. You are always learning, always improving, always trying to make it better. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Expanding possibilities, the Mindset Zone.
Thank you for listening. And remember to visit mindset.zone. Yes, instead of .com, it's .zone. There you can find all the episodes and other amazing resources, all at mindset.zone. And if you want to get a free chapter of my book, Mindset Zone, please go to mindset.zone/book. As always, I'm so grateful you are here. Expand what's possible for you, for the ones around you, for the world.